Hey everyone, Steve here, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a little while since I uploaded, but I am still here. I've got some things in the works that could come out in the next year, but with my work schedule, I don't really have a lot of time for YouTube things. The idea for this video came to me as I was driving home from work one day. I remembered how many people look at the Fallout games and see Bethesda milking every last drop they can get from certain things, mainly factions. For example, most people I've talked to agree that the Brotherhood of Steel is overused, as they've been a large part of every Bethesda Fallout game. But some also say that the Enclave is overused. I strongly disagree with this take, and in this video, I'm going to tell you why. For those of you who don't know, the Enclave is basically the remnants of the US government with a strong partnership to Poseidon Energy. They established, as far as we know, 3 bases across the old United States. There was the Poseidon oil rig off the coast of California, renamed Control Station Enclave, the Raven Rock bunker on the outskirts of DC, and the White Springs bunker in West Virginia. Despite there being 3 bases at the time of the Great War, only one held an actual Enclave presence for long. Members of the government, the military, Poseidon Energy, and some other corporations sought shelter on the oil rig. As far as I know, the Raven Rock bunker didn't have any staff on site at the time of the Great War, but I don't delve as deep into lore as people like Oxhorn, so I could be wrong. And the White Springs bunker had a short-lived civil war in which all human occupants were killed, and Modus, the bunker's operating system, I suppose you could call it, was left damaged. After the destruction of Control Station Enclave, remnants of the Enclave fled to Navarro, a military base in Northern California. After it was destroyed, most made their way to Raven Rock. Some settled in Chicago and founded a new base, and it's entirely possible that some made their way to White Springs. A few remnants settled in and around the new California Republic, however, and just conformed to daily life in those parts, while the larger remnant groups tried to get back on their feet. I personally don't know what happens with the Chicago Enclave, so this will likely be my last mention of them. And since we don't know much about the Enclave presence in the TV show, I likely won't mention them either. So this leaves us with just Raven Rock and possibly White Springs. During the events of Fallout 3 and its DLC Broken Steel, the Raven Rock Enclave is completely destroyed. The Lone Wanderer breaks out of Raven Rock and destroys it, and later breaks into Adams Air Force Base and uses the Enclave's own mobile base crawler thing against itself. It's possible some remnants escaped these events and went to join other enclaves across the continent, but that's where that line of speculation is going to end. The Brotherhood of Steel is showing up in so many places, and that makes sense. But what makes more sense to me is the remnants of the government showing up in more places. It seems plausible to me that the Enclave would have set up more bases across the country and have them staffed and ready to go when they're needed. Now, obviously, the safest of them would have had to be the oil rig off the west coast, given that's where the president escaped to. However, this doesn't mean others couldn't have existed. For instance, I would expect an Enclave bunker at somewhere like Barksdale Air Force Base, Norfolk Naval Station, or Langley Air Force Base. This would mean that the Enclave could be anywhere besides the places we've already been. If the next game were to take place in Louisiana centered around New Orleans, I'd imagine the Enclave could be a major faction with the main base at Barksdale and a secondary base at Fort Johnson or Camp Beauregard. Or if the next game were to take place around New York, the Enclave could definitely be present in Fort Hamilton and or Camp Smith. I could offer you so many ideas as to where the Enclave could be surviving, but instead I'll just leave you with my ideas as to why they should still exist. So no, I don't think the Enclave is overused. Not nearly to the extent that the Brotherhood is. I think the Enclave should be used more, in fact, and the Brotherhood should be used less. But given how Bethesda is, the Brotherhood will likely be in Fallout 5. So how would I go about the factions in the next Fallout game? Well, let's start with the location. I think Fallout 5 should take place over a large area stretching from New Orleans to Houston and Shreveport, with a DLC that takes you to Dallas and Fort Worth. Now, for the factions, I would have the Enclave exist as the morally gray option like the Brotherhood is in Fallout 4. Have their main base in Barksdale, with outposts in Fort Johnson and Ruston. Next, the evil faction would be some savage raider gang that controls a part of Houston and an outpost in Beaumont. Then the nice guy faction would be a coalition of the leaders of the various settlements throughout the map. I wouldn't do a fourth faction though, I think 3 is just enough. Now for the settlements. The biggest settlement would have to be New Orleans. Then probably another major settlement in Lafayette, but leave most of Baton Rouge in ruins. Then of course have smaller settlements dotting the map. Maybe if the map extends slightly into Mississippi, I could also see a major settlement in Vicksburg. Anyway, I think I've rambled enough. In conclusion, I don't think Bethesda has ruined or overused the Enclave, and I do think they should return as a major and, most importantly, joinable faction in Fallout 5. But maybe that's just me. What do you think? Please leave some comments, tell me what you think of everything I've said here. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want more. This is Steve, signing off.